So what is your name and what do you do?
My name is Samantha. I'm a nurse, but I'm currently a stay-at-home mom to my twins.
Where are you from originally, Samantha?
Born and raised Marion, Ohio.
Marion, Ohio. Where do you live now?
I live in Michigan.
What made you move to Michigan?
My husband's career.
What is his career?
He works for Customs Border Patrol.
And what does that do?
He basically is at the Canadian border and the U.S. border, and he checks passports and allows people in and out of the country.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your family, your kids, how you were raised, all that.
Basically just born, raised, middle class. I have 3 children. 2 are twins, 2.5. My first child was stillborn at 28 weeks. His name is Colin. Yeah.
How long ago was that when that happened?
His 4th birthday is actually August 15th, so we're coming up on 4 years.
Okay. So you're a stay-at-home mom. What are some hobbies that you guys have? What are some things you like going and doing?
We go to the park a lot. We love to color. They love to read books. Love being outside. So this winter has been really tough on us. The weather, they're not wanting to be inside much. So now that it's getting nice, we're outside all the time, playing with chalk, bubbles, you name it.
I'm sure the whole COVID thing was interesting, having to be in the house all that time too.
Yes, I was actually pregnant with them during COVID.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was very sheltered.
And it's twins, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So what are some of the struggles that you've endured throughout your life? I know that you said your first child was a stillbirth. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. My husband and I are high school sweethearts. We got married in 2018, and then I got pregnant, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 months later. Everything had been going well. It was our first pregnancy. I want to say about 22 weeks into my pregnancy, I just started not feeling well. I was having swelling. My blood pressure became elevated. I was having really bad visual disturbances, and I actually had told my doctor about those, but they said with pregnancy, a lot of times women's vision changes, so I didn't think nothing of it. So they just basically put me on blood pressure medication and continued to monitor me. Yeah. So I thinking everything's going to be okay. They bumped my appointments to weekly. They told me to be on bed rest. I did everything that I was told to do. You know, this is my first pregnancy. I just listened to my doctor. Right. My blood pressure just continued to basically be the same. It was probably I want to say 160s over probably 90 hundreds. Mm-hmm. And I was taking blood pressure 3 times a day, but it would continuously stay the same. And then my doctor, some of the time framings are a little bit blurry to me still, just because I feel like I had PTSD, from what I went through. But he wanted to do an anatomy scan at 28 weeks. And I was like, okay, perfect. So that day, actually, Chase couldn't take me, my husband. He couldn't take me that day. He had work. So I was instructed not to drive because I had preeclampsia, and you can actually have seizures due to preeclampsia. So my mom picked me up that day for my ultrasound. And I just remember getting in her car, and I just said, I have a bad feeling about my appointment. Yeah. I truly did. I remember I had my baby shower invitations and my list of who I was going to invite. We were going to work on that after my appointment. We go to the appointment. There was a little bit of a wait, which was unusual, so I was getting a little antsy. We go back to the ultrasound room, and my mom was like, her husband couldn't be here today, which he never missed my appointments. She was like, do you care if we record the ultrasound for him to be able to see it? And she was like, oh yeah, that's fine. Just, can you wait until I tell you it's okay? And my mom's like, yeah, of course. Well, I told myself I wouldn't cry. I was on the bed, and she was right here, and she was putting the wand on my stomach. And at that rate, at 28 weeks, the heartbeat should just pick up. Right. Nothing. And she just had this look in her eyes. And she like couldn't tell us because, you know, she's not the doctor. And I just remember like I sat up and I said, no, you need to tell me now what is going on. And I said, there isn't a heartbeat, is there? And she couldn't tell me, but she just like gave me that look. And she went and got the doctor where he had to confirm it. And sure enough, there was no heartbeat. I just remember standing up. I feel like I came out of my body. Yeah. It was the weirdest feeling ever. I just remember standing up and I had to do a urine test every time. And I just threw it. And I was like in shock, honestly. Like I was like, well, what? I couldn't cry. I was frozen. I was just like, well, what do I do now? And I just looked to my mom. I was like, you need to call Chase before he goes into the courts, because that's what he was going to do. And I wouldn't have been able to get a hold of him. Yeah. Luckily, he didn't go in yet. And my mom's like, you need to get here. So they took my mom and I like in an office room until Chase got there. And we told Chase, you know, Colin is gone. I don't know what happened. The doctor gave us like that day and night to go home and be with each other, basically. And we cried and held each other and cried. And like the following day, we went back into the office and they discussed birthing. Like out of all things, like I have to give birth to this child that I know that I'm not taking home. So Chase didn't know I had to do that. He was like, what? She has to go through labor? So I went into the hospital. That was when we found out Colin didn't have a heartbeat on August 12th, I believe. It was a Monday. And I had him Thursday, August 15th at 5:17 a.m. I had to be completely induced. Obviously, they had to start labor because my body wasn't prepared for it. Marion General Hospital, the nurses on the labor and delivery floor were phenomenal. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better crew of nurses taking care of me and Colin, honestly. I had a couple of nurses that they too had lost children and they shared their stories with me, which you don't have to share your story with someone. Yeah. But during that hard time in my life, I felt a little bit of more comfort, like knowing like they've gone through it too. So I had to be induced. That took forever. Like I want to say a day and a half maybe. And then I had him that morning and I was so like in shock, I guess. I didn't ask to really keep, like, can I have him after I deliver? Yeah. They didn't ask Chase if he wanted to cut the umbilical cord. I mean, like now we think about all those things, but at that time you are just thinking of, I don't know, like your brain is somewhere else. It's like on the floor. So I was so afraid to meet Colin. I waited honestly probably a few hours until they brought him into my room. And then I'll never forget, like Chase said that when they wheeled Colin into our room that my face lit up. And like for a moment, I wish I could have heard him crying. Like I was just praying like they were wrong. Yeah. And that when he was going to come to me, he was going to be alive, but he wasn't. Luckily, like unfortunately, a mother who had gone through what I've gone through donated. It's like a cot for babies that pass away. It's cool to keep their body more preserved. And we were able to spend 2 days with Colin. It was just me, Chase, and Colin, and we let immediate family come and meet him. We read to him. We took pictures with him, laid with him, you name it. And when I had to let him go, it was the hardest thing that I've ever gone through in my life. Like I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Yeah. Knowing I had to give him back. I feel bad for whoever was in that hospital that day because I was screaming my head off. I didn't want to give him back, you know, and I knew he was going to the funeral home and I didn't want to think about that or picture that. So I asked my nurse, I said, will you please just let him go back in the nursery with the other babies? I said, I can't see him be taken away by the funeral home. So our final goodbyes were right there. I don't know if you've been on the labor and delivery floor, but the door right there to go into the nursery, our final goodbyes were right there. And he went in there, and me and Chase went home.
So when you gave birth to Colin, did you get to see him when you gave birth, or did they just take him right away?
They took him right away. If I would have known, I would have just said, can I please have him immediately? But I didn't know. So they took him away and like gave him a bath. And
So Chase was in there when you originally gave birth. Did he see Colin as soon as he came out, right before they took him away?
he said that he saw Colin. And actually, like, my mom was on her way to be with us, and she missed like the beginning of my birth. Right in the beginning, I didn't even know my mom was in the room with me. That's how out of it I was. She was actually at bedside with me, and I think she saw like a glimpse of him as well.
Yeah. So you guys did a full funeral for him and everything like that?
Yeah. We didn't know we had to. They actually told us that at the hospital. And I've had my family has been wonderful. My cousin basically like called everybody and planned the arrangements for us. And we had his funeral at Snyder's. They're wonderful. Wonderful.
So how did you guys deal with that afterwards? How did you guys work through that and cope with the loss of Colin?
Bad, to be honest. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't eat. I remember coming home when we left Mary General. We didn't know what to do. You know, you're expecting to bring home a baby, and we're empty-handed. We honestly went on a long drive, and we went home. And when you walk into our home, it's the living room, and then right here is the dining room. All of Colin's things were in the dining room. I had just ordered them, and they were delivered. So that was another smack in the face, like the crib, the car seat, stroller, you name it. So here Chase is, he's lost a child too, you know, and he's had to basically do everything for me. Without him, I don't know what I would have done. I seriously don't know what I would have done because he handled everything for me. Making sure I, ate and drank and everything.
And I know there are different types of ways that people can lose children. None of them are good, obviously, but like I've talked about it before. Like some women have ectopic pregnancies where they lose the child before it even enters and starts to develop all the way. But I can only imagine how hard it would be to actually give birth to the child and see the child like that.
It was awful.
How did that affect you mentally, you think?
Bad. I feel like I had PTSD. I was having nightmares. I've never had nightmares in my life. When I did go home, I was medicated. Like I was literally like crying and screaming why. I did not understand. I just felt a lot of emptiness inside. I know it definitely changed me. Just not wanting to be around anybody, just isolating myself.
Is there anything special that you guys do every year on that day to remember Colin, or?
Oh yeah, every year we celebrate his birthday. Last year we were actually in California, so we celebrated his birthday on the beach. This year, I'm not sure what we'll do yet, but I plan to celebrate his birthday every year. And as his siblings get older, they will know about Colin as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you and Chase talk about it, how did he say that made him feel?
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said, like, obviously as the father, he lost his child, but he said that he knows it was worse on me because I carried him. I had to go through laboring him and delivering him. But he feels, some emptiness and sadness as well.
And with you just having twins, did that kind of make you guys paranoid?
Oh, yeah.
After having to deal with that before?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that probably adds a whole nother factor of fear when you go in and get the ultrasounds done and all that.
Yeah.
So,
after I had Colin, we went to the OB, and we discussed when we would have another baby, because it's not that I wanted to replace Colin. That will never happen as long as I'm here on this earth. But I obviously wanted to have a baby. My OB told me 2 years. And I was just, in my head, I was like, no. Yeah. So we went and actually got a second opinion. We went to OSU where they looked through our records. They feel like Colin, so I had Colin at 28 weeks. That's the beginning of your third trimester. There's 3 trimesters in pregnancy. They think that he actually was about 23 to 24 weeks. Like he had stopped growing. So they actually said I didn't need to wait 2 years because of how small he was, how well my delivery went, how well I recovered. Because a lot of people don't understand, you know, not only did I deliver him, but my milk came in. Yeah. I had to heal, you know, from having a birth. Yeah. I had to go through all of that. Wow. And once healed, we talked and they cleared us to start trying again. And we talked briefly about it, and happened rather quickly. I think a couple months later. Yeah, because Ellie and Evan, Colin's birthday's in August, Ellie and Evan's birthday's in September. So they're a year and a month.
So rewind back to when you gave birth to Colin. Going in there, knowing that you were about to give birth and your child more than likely will not be alive when you do, what's running through your mind at that point?
Anger.
Yeah.
I did not even want to go on that floor. Because at Marion General, every hospital is different, but at Marion General, like when someone does deliver a baby, they play the lullaby. And then when we did go up on the 3rd floor, my room was by the nursery. So that was not very pleasant for me. And I remember being scared, just the unknown, because I did have preeclampsia. Yeah. And
can you go ahead and explain what that is for people who don't know?
Yeah. So typically preeclampsia develops at like 20 weeks and above. It's hypertensive, like you have high blood pressure. Yeah. A lot of women experience protein in their urine. It's actually very dangerous because as the mother, it can shut down their kidneys, their liver. It does a lot of organ damage. And then obviously for the baby, it's like growth development restrictions, things like that. So the placenta failed Colin because of my preeclampsia that you cannot control. Right. You can be the healthiest woman alive, and if you get preeclampsia, you get preeclampsia. Yeah. There's nothing you can do about it.
So go
ahead.
You're good. Go ahead.
I just remember going to the hospital to be induced, and I had nurses in, and another nurse came in, and she was like strapping my bed with like cushion and stuff, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "This is just in case you were to have a seizure." And I was like, what? Because I didn't know nothing about preeclampsia myself. Yeah. So that was scary. Yeah. Thankfully, I did not have a seizure. And after having Colin, my blood pressure came down rather quickly. I didn't need to be on medication or anything after that. So that was a positive in my life at that time.
So how are you guys doing now?
Good. Yeah. We have our days.
So it's been 4 years?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you guys still talk about it and like the experience of it all?
Yeah.
So did Chase ever say, or did you ever notice any difference in his behavior after that?
I feel like he had to be strong for me, even though I would never tell him he needed to be. Yeah. I felt like he, as like the father, he wanted to do everything he could. Yeah. As far as like my health, he put his aside. Yeah. But he was scared going into the twins' pregnancy, and I can understand why.
So do you still deal with any type of depression that you think might have been caused by that? Or
Absolutely. Yeah. Every day is different, honestly. For me, it's the milestones. Mm-hmm. You know, before I had the twins, we have friends that our kids are the same age. Yeah. You know, their kids are turning 4. And they're here. So watching them like grow and develop, it's been wonderful. But in the same sentence, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about Colin, like, oh my gosh, like what would he be doing? Like if he was here. And then seeing Ellie and Evan hit the milestones they're hitting, I'm so proud and thankful. But in the same sentence, I'm thinking, wow, like I would have loved to see Colin do those things.
Yeah. So you lost one child, but then you ended up with twins the next time.
Yeah.
The twins, it's boy and girl.
Yes.
So how are they?
Rotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you plan on explaining that to them eventually, what happened?
You know, that part I've thought about, and I have no idea. Like, I will tell them Colin's in heaven. He got sick, but I don't know how I want to go about that yet. I probably will wait. Chase and I have never really officially talked about that.
Yeah.
Like I said, we plan to keep Colin involved in their lives as much as possible. Right. So, I mean, one day they do need to know.
Because like I said, I mean, I hear about it all the time. What is it called? Postpartum depression in women?
Yeah.
So they get depression after they have a baby a lot of the time anyway. Mm-hmm. And then you lost a baby on top of that. So
I feel like, yes, I had depression, but I was more angry.
Yeah.
Like, I would be in the shower, I'd be yelling.
And I mean, a lot of times when we're angry, we don't really have anybody specifically that we're angry at. But were you angry at somebody specifically? Mm-hmm. Who was it?
I was angry at my doctor, who I won't mention. And I'm not going to lie, I was angry at God. Yeah. You know, people don't know what to say to you when you've lost a child. Yeah. So when someone tells me God needed him more than you, I try to just let that roll off my shoulders. But no, God didn't need him. I needed him. That's what I want to tell people. Yeah. But I know they're just trying to be nice and, you know, say something that to feel that, I don't know the word I'm looking for, like awkwardness maybe that they are experiencing. Yeah. So
not even God can tell a mother that he needs their child more than
right.
And obviously it was a terrible thing to happen, but then he blessed you with 2 kids at the same time.
Yes, we were in shock when we saw that.
So what are the? I think I heard somebody say it's called like a rainbow baby or something like that. When you have a baby after you lost one, you got 2. Mm-hmm. You got 2 of them. So, what would you say to somebody dealing with a similar situation, losing a child with a stillbirth? What would you say to not even just the mother, but a mother and a father that have went through that? What would you say to them?
That their feelings are valid. Mm-hmm. They're real. Don't let anyone ever dismiss them. Yeah. Lean on others, lean on each other, because dealing with that type of situation, that big of a loss, that can either, you know, make you or break you. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, out of this horrible situation, it's brought Chase and I a lot closer. Yeah. So I would just definitely tell them to lean on each other. And
that's one thing that I've noticed, even though it's a very tragic situation, it has a way of bringing people closer together. Especially, like, I've had somebody else on here who lost a child, and he said the same thing. Him and his wife just grew closer after that. I mean, they wish it would have happened in a different way, honestly.
Absolutely.
But it's still, at the end of the day, it brings you closer, and you guys can miss him together. A lot of the stuff that I asked you guys to come on here and talk about like this is obviously super tough to talk about, especially with cameras in your face and a microphone on you. I'm sure you haven't talked to a lot of people about it. It's just a hard topic to talk about. Mm-hmm. But in talking about it, you help so many other people, because I know that you said a lot of the nurses that shared their story with you, even though it still hurt, it gave you a little bit of comfort knowing that other people have been through it.
Yeah.
So I think that's what anybody who watches this will get from hearing your story that has been through similar things.
That's my goal. If I could just get through to one mother that's lost a child or goes through it and let them know they're not alone, and, you know, reach out. Yeah. That's really what I wanted to come on here and let others know. Absolutely.
And like I said, it's not easy. So what, did you talk to Chase before you came and did this?
Yeah, I asked if it was okay, you know, being that we're both.
Right. And how did he feel about it?
He said, yeah, absolutely. He said, if that makes you feel better and if that's what you want to do. So I chose to do it.
So other than him giving you his blessing, what gave you the courage to actually come here? Because you drove from 2.5 hours away to share your story, to try to help somebody else. What gave you the courage to do that?
Colin. Yeah, I mainly did it for Colin.
Think you drew strength from Colin?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Just keeping his memory alive and everything.
Any way I can.